the Canadian loonie. It briefly traded above 70 cents US today at about 9:45 a.m. Eastern time, and the rally began at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time when that story that everybody's been talking about all day long in the Wall Street Journal about Trump deferring tariffs pending a review of trade relationships among the U.S. and its partners hit the screen at the Wall Street Journal. Let's talk to an expert on the currency to see where it may be going from here. Adam Button is Senior Forex Analyst at Button Insight, and he joins us now. Adam, thanks a lot for joining us. And just to reiterate, the spike we saw or to clarify, I guess, the spike we saw in the Canadian dollar at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time was really the flip side of a drop at that moment in the U.S. dollar as currency markets adjusted to that article in the Wall Street Journal. So in other words, all of the developed market currencies, those that are in the Dixie basket, would have seen increases, something like what we're looking at right now in the Canadian dollar, which rallied briefly above 70 cents. It is now at 69.86 cents US. What's your take, first of all, on today's reaction, Adam?
Well, I mean, it's a good start. I think anytime there's an election, the fears get elevated about what's going to happen. Trump himself certainly stoked that. And then the reality hits that, Trump's priority is the stock market at the end of the day. That's been our base case. That's more important to him than the trade deficit, than the fiscal deficit. And anything to upset that is going to be a problem for him. And I think that's even the conviction in that has to be higher today. And if that's your base case, then you have to have a pretty solid trade relationship between Canada and the U.S. And I think you're feeling pretty good if you're Canada coming out of day one and really the rest of the world and any kind of global growth trade. So big move today, and I think it might only be the beginning.
One common view that people have expressed on the Trump 25% tariff threat was it was a threat. It's the opening bargaining position. Ultimately, this will come down to difficult negotiations, and if we see tariffs, they will be substantially smaller than 25%. Are we now seeing that scenario begin to play out?
Yeah, and I think you see it across markets today. You saw it in Canada. Some of the companies like Bombardier or the energy sector that would have been hit really hard by tariffs, they did really well today. And we're starting to see that play out. I think it is a negotiation. He had a few months to think about this and threaten it and decided against it. And that's a big signal going forward for what is the priority. And, from here, we'll take it a day at a time. There's so much noise with Trump, and I think you have to have ultra high conviction, and that is his belief, and that the first Trump or the second Trump will be a lot like the first Trump to get that. And so far, everything that we saw from Trump today sounded a lot like the first Trump, in terms of immigration. They're really going after criminal illegal aliens, not all mass deportations. So, it's another sign that there's nothing going to be that different about this administration from the first one. And even with all the drama around NAFTA and USMCA, the first go around, it didn't hurt Canada too badly. And I would say something much worse is obviously priced in at the moment.
What is your forecast on the Canadian dollar over the next 6 or 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, coming into the Trump administration, last time we talked, we said the bottom at 68 we thought would hold because of this view on Trump. And I think we're feeling a little bit better about that today. On the domestic side, you're going to want to see Canada roll out some ideas about how to spur growth. There's an opportunity for Canada or Canadians and Canadian politicians to really come together with a pro-growth agenda here right now. We've relied on housing, immigration, and government spending to fuel the economy for 20 years. There needs to be a new vision around building, getting things done. Now's obviously an opportunity for that. And so we're going to have a big political change in Canada. And I think in the second half of the year, that's going to be the real driver of the currency. But we're waiting on some of the ideas.
Oil and the price of oil can be a significant influence on the Canadian dollar, and Trump's energy policy is very much, there are parts of it that are focused on energy in a big way. He wants the U.S. to be a big exporter of oil around the world. One of the early takeaways on that was that those type of policies would likely longer term be negative they would be supply positive and price negative on crude oil. What are your thoughts?
Listen, anytime in the global energy market, there's a lot of machinations going on here. The Canadian dollar probably didn't do as well as it could have today because the price of oil came down, but the price of oil came down because there are less risks around Canadian and Mexican supplies getting hit with tariffs. Now there are higher risks around Iran right now, maybe lower around Russia. I think in the big picture, you look at a president that wants to double the amount of energy that the United States is producing in terms of electricity and energy overall. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to get that much more out of the ground in terms of oil, maybe natural gas, yes. But I think those pipelines are going to stay open from Canada. Canada has some levers to pull on in terms of exporting more oil. And I think at the end of the day, Canada can be a big winner around energy because Canada is an energy superpower. So, we're going to keep a close eye on it. But at the end of the day, if oil falls below 70, the U.S. isn't producing any more oil. Canada's not producing any more oil. So I think price more than the administration is going to dictate what happens. Canada has great geography. I think the U.S. is probably close to being tapped out in shale. So, there's a lot of upside, I think, here once it all shakes out.
I know you don't. We don't often talk to you about cryptocurrencies, but I know you've got some thoughts on the rollout of the Trump and the Trump meme coin and the Melania meme coin today. Why don't we finish there? What do you think about the President of the United States and his wife, the First Lady, rolling out meme coins a day before he takes office?
Well, it's a disgrace. I think that's the simplest way you can put it. I mean, that's where we're at here right now. I mean, fraud it's open season, I think, on fraud for the next number of years. I think capital markets, it's a hit to capital markets in any way that any sort of young person is becoming involved in that field. I can't really say anything positive about it at all. I hope it ends one day, and maybe there is a place for cryptocurrency within the broader financial ecosystem and some of the things that some very smart people are trying to do with it in terms of transparency. But this ain't it, and it's a pretty sad day to start out on that foot in this administration. But we hope for better and really expect better.